Do you think there's systematic functions in place that prevent African Americans from moving upward?
No, does not exist.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think they've ever enforced any policies
maybe,
or any actions?
Maybe 40 or 50 years ago, but nothing in nothing in our lifetime, not even close.
I would say in our lifetime, right? Within our
That's a big deal, though,
our last
right?
20 decades, our last 2 decades, right? We've had a lot of opportunities for upper mobility, right?
And for whatever reason,
but at a systemic
it hasn't
level,
worked.
At a systemic level, there's a history of prejudice within the American system against African Americans and black people.
But there's also historic systemic bias against Asian Americans and Jews. It hasn't held them back.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about them.
No,
right?
but it's important to compare. Why is it that it held blacks back but not Asians or Jews?
So I'll answer that.
What's up, beautiful people of YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. My name is Elario, your host, and today I'm back with another video and check out with you guys. This is called Indoctrinated Student Nearly Crashes Out After Hearing the Fact from Charlie Kirk. You know the drill, guys. We talk less and we react more. Let's check this one out.
All right, you seem pretty educated on foreign and domestic policies. I'll try not to. You seem pretty educated on foreign and domestic policies. What's your take on rectifying the homeless crisis in LA as far as it goes with Karen Bass and Governor Newsom coming from, San Francisco and such? What can we do moving forward? Is DEI the next way to fix these programs, allocating these funds, figuring out what the council members are doing? Where should we go with this? What's the next step for Californians and locals?
It's very simple. When Xi Jinping visited San Francisco, all the streets were cleaned up and it looked like Singapore and there were no more homeless. We can solve the homelessness problem overnight.
That's correct.
If we choose to do it. But your leaders are choosing not to clean up the streets. It takes the will. Every homeless person should be given a place in a shelter, should be given 3 meals a day. They should be given a shower, but they should never be given license to stay on the streets. The streets are not their home. You clean up the streets and you give them the help they need. Period. End of story.
Another big YouTuber, Channel 5, Brandon Cunningham, does a lot of hit pieces on San Francisco's homelessness crisis and how bad the issue is. There's a lot of programs that don't work because it's enforced by the city. They hand out needles, they hand out kits.
Correct.
So what can we do to stop that? That's obviously
Stop
for the
electing
harm.
Democrats.
Yeah. So this local election, right? For the local election, a lot of people didn't turn out for the election. How can we increase the voter turnout to change those?
I mean, it's as insofar that people want to keep on living in this hellscape, then you will.
Yeah.
But you do not have to have the homelessness problem. You do not have to have the crime problem. It is a casualty of choice. It is a choice to have the streets the way they are. And as long as people don't show up, I guess they don't care enough.
Hey, we had a conversation earlier.
Make it quick because I don't like to do repeats. But
well, absolutely. Well, I'm talking about a different topic this time. You made some interesting points. You made some interesting points about the crime statistics in the African American community. You think crime and poverty are intrinsically linked?
Not always, but they could be directionally close to each other. For example, poor Asians are not necessarily more likely to commit crimes than a poor black person.
Okay. Do you think there's systematic functions in place that prevent African Americans from moving upward?
No, does not exist.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think they've ever enforced any policies or any actions?
Maybe 40 or 50 years ago, but nothing in our lifetime, not even close.
I would say in our lifetime, right? Within our
That's a big deal, though,
our last
right?
20 decades, our last 2 decades, right? We've had a lot of opportunities for upper mobility, right?
And for whatever reason,
but at a systemic
it hasn't
level,
worked.
At a systemic level, there's a history of prejudice within the American system against African Americans and black people.
But there's also historic systemic bias against Asian Americans and Jews. It hasn't held them back.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about them.
No,
right?
but it's important to compare. Why is it that it held blacks back but not Asians or Jews?
So I'll answer
Big
that.
question.
So Jews, well, let me speak about Asians. As a model minority, right? They've had more opportunities for upper mobility.
How?
Well, in terms of getting business loans, setting up in different neighborhoods.
Well, there was a lot more anti-Asian discrimination in California than anti-black discrimination in the 40s and 50s.
So you agree 100% that African Americans have getting the same opportunities?
No, I'm not. Look,
as far as redlining goes,
groups are sometimes treated poorly. Whether or not you're able to overcome that is the question. Number two.
So treated poorly doesn't cover it. I have a couple things. I have a couple lines right here. So we have the Tulsa massacre of 1921, right?
Yeah,
where African Americans established a black.
Ago.
Well, they established a Black Wall Street, right? And that was taken down. We have the Black Panthers
how does that impact
in San Francisco.
How does that impact you?
Well, I'm saying there's a history. I'm trying to establish a link here.
No, but I think, again, that you're trained to do this in the college. It has no bearing on whether or not you can make good decisions or not.
Well,
right?
college has no impetus on my thinking. This is
No, I know, but I reject the whole premise. You are not a creature or a victim of what happened 104 years ago. You're your own being with your own agency, your own ability to make decisions of right or wrong.
And I agree to not subscribing to a victim mentality and taking accountability for your actions.
I don't think any of that plays into your current status.
You don't think so at all?
No.
Can you list more reasons as to why?
Yeah, the number one problem with Black America is the fact that dads are not around, not the fact that
and that's enforced by the government.
No, it's not.
How?
I would say on an individual basis, there's different programs that stop.
Two out of three Black youth did not have a dad around.
Yeah, there's a crack epidemic. CIA moved crack into the hood. We went into different hoods in Los Angeles community.
Yeah, but you have to still choose to do drugs. So, like, the point is you're a victim of your choices, not your circumstances. That's what makes us conservatives different.
I think you're removing culpability from people, but I agree with the accountability and the
we believe
circumstance.
choices are what determine what you're in, not what's around you.
Yeah,
so,
your choices inform your environment and your outcomes. I agree with that.
Yeah, so then if people choose to do crack cocaine and therefore your kids don't have a dad around, that's your own choice. If you choose to commit crimes and you're in prison, that's your own choice.
Yeah,
but no other community has had this problem. Why does Black America have this problem?
I think there's a direct link between the prison industrial complex and incarceration.
Well, but how does one get to prison?
And the profiling African Americans.
Well, hold on. But first of all, it's not a profiling when it comes to that. Blacks are far more likely to commit crimes than any other group associated. It's like 3 to 4 times more likely. It's not even close. So how is that profiling?
Well, I'm not here to debate numbers because I don't have the numbers with
It's
me.
okay. When you get home, you can look at it. Black Americans are 13% of the population. They commit 55% of the violent crime.
A statistic I've heard before.
Right.
Again, I don't have the numbers to
It's fine.
counter
You could
it.
independently fact check it later. I don't anticipate you to have it off the top of your head. But why is that?
Seriously.
I don't have a
Fruitful
direct
thoughts.
answer.
I know.
for
That's
that.
what I want you to think about it. And I'm not going to put you on the spot. Here's our answer. It's easy and tempting to say systemic racism, redlining, right? All that. Or you could say, maybe it's because dads aren't around, because dads being with their equivalent others or spouses is not a value in the Black community anymore. It's acceptable to have men impregnate women and flee. It's not a cultural expectation.
I think our cultural expectation is for African Americans to stand with their families and increase, because there's a lot of evidence that shows when 2 parents are present in a household, they have a higher chance of their children succeeding.
I agree. Then why doesn't that happen?
upward.
So why don't Black dads stay around?
I think that's a progression in our community. I think that's a progression.
But
now.
why is
I'm
that
saying
happening?
that the reason that we're here is there's a lot of factors that led us to this point.
I don't but it's a decision that a Black man can make. He's impregnated a woman, so he's not in jail. So he's like a free citizen. Why not stay with that woman and start a family?
And I'd say for the most part,
66% of the time,
we're moving in that direction.
It's getting worse, not better, actually. The single fatherhood rate is getting worse in Black America. It was 25% in 1965. It was 50% in 1980. It's 75% in certain cities now. It's beyond comprehension. It's like the worst of the industrialized world. And there's only one explanation. It's that it's not a cultural value in Black America right now.
I think we have to disagree. I think it is a cultural value moving forward, and I think
But
it
then
has
why
been
is
a
it
cultural
happening?
value. And I think post-civil rights movements, especially during the civil rights movement, that was a major impetus. That was a major focus of the Black community, and that's how we got through that
But
movement.
you know, Black
through that
America,
structure and that family
you know, Black
unit.
America's actually gotten poorer since the Civil Rights Act.
Well, yes, I understand
Why?
that. I don't have an answer for that.
It's okay. Think about it. And I'm not saying it's one or the other, but the Civil Rights Act is revered as this amazing thing. But Black America is actually poorer, more likely to commit crimes, in more poverty than it was before the Civil Rights Act. There's a lot of explanations. Thomas Sowell's written entire books about this.
And I've read on Thomas Sowell.
Good. And I want you to keep reading Thomas Sowell because he'll push your boundaries and he's phenomenal. Here's our belief system. The most important thing is dads in the home. If you do not have 2 parents around, everything falls apart. It's not about government checks or welfare. It's the nuclear family. The nuclear family is a guarantor more than anything else that a kid is going to.
And I 100% agree with that.
Right. So we have to figure out then, it's a riddle. I think I know the answer. Why so many Black youth do not have dads around.
I personally think the answer is more convoluted than that. I think it's a bit muddled. I think going forward, there's going to be an upward progression in that area. I have to look at the numbers, and I'll come back to you with some better statistics.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thanks for your good-hearted question. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, you see, the most impressive thing about listening to Charlie Kirk is that he just gives the facts from like the top of his head. And he does not have to stay and stutter and think too hard, and it's already, coming out of him. Like, the man is super smart. Now, I'm really curious though, standing on the facts that Charlie presented, why is it that the black community is more likely to commit crimes? Why is it that single parenthood, especially single motherhood, has risen to 75% in present day, as at 25% in the 90s? Why is it that the blacks, the Jews, and the Asians were all victimized in history, but yet only the blacks seem to be held down by that victimhood? And it's not like they had equal opportunities. If standing on what Charlie says in some other videos, you can see that the government has actually tried to boost the black community, but yet they still remain backward, if I'm to put it that way. Some of them still remain backward. I feel like it's a matter of their mentality, them holding on to the past and trying to merge it with the present. You won't get a future from that. Secondly, your choice. Charlie says, we conservatives believe that your choice plays a major role in determining your end product, like the outcome. You see, I 100% agree with Charlie on that one. There's a question that's playing out, or that has been playing out in my head. It's like choices. Do we make them, or do they make us? Now, in this case, according to Charlie, the black Americans don't want to make the choices. They want the choices to make them. And your choices will only make you when you are solely dependent on the circumstances around you. Now, he says that there are a lot of factors that led up to the fathers not being present in the family. And number one was, according to him, the CIA pumping crack into the neighborhood and the black community, pushing those drugs. And now in this case, Charlie said, you can choose not to sell those drugs. And really now, it's not only the black man that is selling crack. There are other white people selling crack. And presently, in this day and age, black or white, even back then to some extent, you're caught with crack, you're going to jail. Regardless of skin color, especially now. So, as Charlie said, you can choose not to sell crack. If they were not given a choice back then, now, because the standpoint is from the past 20 years, now you can choose not to sell crack. Now you can choose not to do drugs. Now you can choose not to steal. Now you can choose not to be a gangster. Now you can choose not to be a hit-and-run baby father. It's all a matter of you choosing. So if you feel like the reason for them not being present is the fact that they are pushing drugs into your neighborhood, then why don't you choose not to push those drugs for them? Why don't you abstain from them? Why don't you stay away from them? Then, secondly, on this issue of parenthood, Charlie said, okay, definitely, you impregnated a lady, you're not in jail. So why not stay and make a family? And by staying to make a family, why not get a good job? Even if it's a hand job. A bricklayer, a plumber, a carpenter, a manual job. Get a job with honest living. Why don't you do that? Why don't you settle down? Why don't you start a family rather than running? Because most cases, it's not the drugs that take them away. No. They run, they bolt because they're not ready for that responsibility. Then you leave the woman to shoulder it all. So, in everything, just as Charlie said, it's easier for you to apportion blames on everything that is not the root cause. You can say it's racism, you can say it's over policing. You can say all manner of things, but the fact is, choice. Some of them actually chose the life that they are living now. Some of them, and you having a backward mindset that you are owed something for certain wrong deeds done to your ancestors, then you keep on living in a fantasy because you're owed nothing. And just as Charlie said, the examples that this guy was citing was from 104 years ago. Charlie asked him, how does this apply to you? That's the problem. You are holding on to the past, trying to use it to shape your present to determine your future. You are not going anywhere. Let go of that victimhood mentality. Let go of that entitlement and try to focus on what you see now, the opportunities that you're given. He's in college now, hoping to finish and get a good job. Would you want your race to be a determining factor in where you work? Do you think people would feel safe that, okay, he was given a job as a medical doctor because he's black? Do you think they will feel at peace with them knowing that you may not have such credentials for this job, but you were just put there because of your skin color? Let's all wake up and face reality, please. This whole reparations and black victimhood mentality is getting old, for real. Guys, please tell us what you think about this video in the comment section, and please do us leave a thumbs up for us at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe.